Bloody hell, someone's going heavy on the stairs. I'm here.
It was Amir's moves.
I did see the Calvin.
You've got Joel's jumper. Where have you got Joel's jumper on?
Well, it's a Nike t-shirt, actually.
Yeah, we saw your moves just flapping away. Talking of moves, how's Ali?
Welcome to another episode of Political Dregs. I'm Calvin Robinson, and with me this week is Joel Davidson.
Hello.
Amir Sajadi.
Hi.
And Hamish Hunter.
Good to be here, Calvin.
Good. So Brexit is happening. Finally, it's done and dusted. But officially, it's over and done with this week, January the 31st. Friday, I'm going to be out there on Parliament Square with my English sparkling wine, celebrating with all the Team Vote Leave people that put in all that hard work over the campaign. Obviously, we've got two Leavers and two Remainers on this podcast, so it could get quite diverse. What are you guys going to be doing on Friday?
Who are the Remainers? The ones who didn't want to leave the European Union back at last March.
Before, I am absolutely overjoyed by the fact that the United Kingdom will be leaving the European Union, and I'm especially happy that we are leaving with a proper deal that takes us out and doesn't leave us in a sort of half in, half out, sort of situation. And I would just like to throw some big old shade, especially at the wet Tory types who, when May's deal came along, told us it was this Brexit or no Brexit at all. And that, if we didn't support this Brexit, then effectively we didn't want to leave the EU. And when we were given an option against staying in or this terrible deal, which was appalling, all of these
Joel Davidson's
lily-livered, sycophantic CCHQ bot Tories were tweeting about how May's deal was fantastic. You couldn't get anything better, and
you didn't. You not get anything better. You got something worse.
And we got a proper Brexit. We got
something worse, Hamish.
Hashtag full Brexit, proper exit, Joel. Come on.
You got something worse. That's the point. That you could not got something. The deal was better if it had been managed and presented better. It was better for the United Kingdom as a unionist, which you are supposed to be. It was without doubt better. You asked the people in Northern Ireland whether this deal is better for them. As we discussed with our Irish friend, it is absolutely not. So I am also very happy that we're leaving the European Union. I voted leave and campaigned for leave. And
I always forget that.
Our votes count just as equally as yours did. Without the 17, I was one of the 17 million who delivered.
I think all four of us were.
That's true.
So a little bit ungrateful, as usual, to be. That's fine. I just think that the deal is not better. So you are deluding yourself if you think that it is, because it's not better for the Union, and it is treating Great Britain as one entity, and we are not one entity in Great Britain. You
just said we should support it as one entity. We are one unity, one nation conservative.
We are leaving Northern Ireland behind, Calvin, and we are. And that is the reality of this deal compared to the previous deal, which was better for the Union and should have been sold.
I mean, Joel, you make a really valid point. Even though these two neocons,
not a neocon.
So, what is it? What was that quiz you did? It was a social conservative. Is that correct?
Just conservative will do. There's so few of them in the party that I'll stand out for that.
So we have two conservatives who aren't in the Conservatives. Okay, never mind.
I don't describe myself as a conservative.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think, Joel, you're right. There's going to be some challenges ahead, and this deal is far from perfect. The DUP were fucked by the Tories, and I think we're going to have to watch this very closely, because there is a possibility in the future that there is Irish reunification. If this falls through, and there are outcomes in the future where this is going to fall through, especially when it comes to border checks, and no one really has the answer. We can talk about the future, about technology is going to solve our problems, and it's not going to be on the Irish border, it's going to be somewhere in the English ports or wherever. But the reality is that no one has actually no one actually knows what's going to happen. We can all predict and kind of rub our kind of genie bottle and hope for the best.
There's been a lot of window dressing on this, a lot of garnish, but this deal, which Boris has done with Varadkar, is puts a border down the Irish Sea, and it's the same one that was offered to Theresa May by Barnier and everyone else, and that is the reality, and that's what he's taken, and I think we just have to be clear and honest that that's what's happened here. If the union is less important to you than having a free trade deal with, or a trade deal with the US, then this is the deal for you.
This is the problem, though, with Ramona's. They managed to turn... This started out as a celebration about Brexit, and you managed to make it negative again.
Okay, fine.
No.
So that's exactly what I mean, that's the point I'm...
It's a question.
One of the reasons, I was really, I was very, very irritated that we didn't leave the European Union on the 29th of March or in April. That's why I voted for the Brexit Party in the European elections. I was very frustrated that we didn't... that Boris was scuppered from being able to take us out on the 31st of October. But actually, if you took me back to a year ago and said you can have May's Brexit on the 29th of March, or you can wait for 9 months and have Boris Johnson as Prime Minister and a proper Brexit on the 31st of January. Boris Johnson, who is a Prime Minister who believes in Brexit in a way that Theresa May did not, who can see that there are positives and to get excited about, things that we can achieve. And it's so refreshing to see that, because it was constantly obvious that Theresa May didn't want to do this and was effectively approaching the task of leaving the European Union as a damage limitation exercise and not as an opportunity to grasp exciting new opportunity.
I agree.
And frankly, that is worth it alone.
She was far too negative, and the civil service were far too negative about there were opportunities and there were advantages from a close economic relationship with Europe and by leaving the European Union, which I think was the best approach for the UK in the medium term. How about this? How about we all agree on the good things that are going to happen as a result of leaving the EU?
At
least three of us.
Look, it's hard, but I used to believe in Brexit because of the opportunities that you're talking about right now. Okay. There is a lot of opportunity. There's a heck of a lot of countries out there who want to do trade deals with the UK. I just don't have the confidence. I just don't have confidence in our government. That's my biggest hindrance in this whole last 3.5 years. Our government has consistently proved how useless, how incompetent, how self-serving they are and political, and not working in the national interest. That is my biggest issue with this going forward. Now, okay, Boris, you talk about his positivity, and I like that. You talk about his enthusiasm and his kind of get up and go-ness, and that's all good and well. But the fact of the matter, it isn't just about one person. You have a whole group of people who are all vying through self-serving personal ambitions. And the question is always going to be, are they going to put country before personal ambition? And that question has never been fully answered for me. And you can't answer that. No one can truly answer that. The proof is in the pudding. And right now we have a Home Secretary. We have the worst crime records in a long time. And we have a Home Secretary that all she can do is post pictures on Instagrams of her grinning. And, go and do your fucking job and stop posting Instagram pictures of grinning and smiling. People are dying on the streets. There's a triple stabbing last week, and stop talking about bringing police numbers back to what they were 10 years ago. I want to see more active, proactive policies that's going to impact our lives positively. And so far, I don't see it. And you're talking to me about positivity. Well, okay, proof's in the pudding. Let's see.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. But one of the other things that I'm really glad, one of the other reasons I'm really glad that we are actually leaving the European Union is because for over 3 years since the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union, and then voted 80% of them the electorate voted for parties that said they wanted to leave the European Union, and then voted for the Brexit Party in the European elections, is that democracy has won against the oligarchy of the I know better than you class. And actually, I think that at this stage, one of the really most powerful reasons to say that we should leave the European Union is because of the effect that not leaving the European Union would have had on our democracy, on our public our public debate. And I think it would have caused real problems, because there is a social contract in a democratic political system where democratic outcomes are delivered upon, and in exchange for that, the people, the masses, express their democratic will through voting, express their political will through voting, and not through other, perhaps, more unpleasant means. And the problem is, when you deny that, when you deny the people the voice, whether you're the ancien regime France or Tsarist Russia or whatever, people express themselves politically through other means, and they tend to be unpleasant. And so I am glad that we have avoided that.
But I mean, Hamish,
I think you're both right on this one. Before you come back, Amir, I think because
yeah.
Hamish is right in that democracy has prevailed, but Amir is also right in that will this new cohort of politicians put country before party and put country before ambitions? And when we look at, there was an article in the Independent today about the new funding formula from the government, and a lot of the money isn't going towards these northern towns in the Red Wall. It's actually going down to the southern areas that are considered safe conservative areas. That would be a grave mistake. Now, I take everything that the Independent publishes with a pinch of salt, but if that's what we're going to see from them, that will be damaging for the party and for the country.
Well, are these MPs going to stand up for their areas?
Indeed. Are they fighting for Britain, or are they fighting for their own careers?
I mean, you've already got MPs talking about trashing or getting rid of HS2, and we all have reservations about HS2. But the fact of the matter is that more infrastructure, which is going to connect the country from different regions to different regions, is not negative. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, and so when you've got MPs who are talking about getting rid of HS2 and not coming up with solutions which is going to solve the problems, then I have reservations. You have we all have reservations.
But they are. So friends of ours have said, don't worry about HS2 from London to the north. Worry about connections between the Midlands and the north, and the Midlands and the Midlands and the north and the north.
Yeah.
Because all of that infrastructure is a mess. We don't necessarily need to link everything back to London.
That's true. But I mean, then you can't just suddenly shut off London and give the north everything they want. You need to do both. We need to focus on the north without losing London.
But without it being superficial as well. Sending the Lords to the north, for example. I know Hamish has tweeted about it. It's stupid. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
The other thing I would reflect, because we are supposed to be talking about Brexit.
Oh yeah.
Past 3 years, which is actually more of an indictment on our political class, our politicians, and the state of our public debate, is that we had a referendum. 52% of people who voted in that referendum voted for a particular outcome. Public discourse over the subsequent 3 years was really centred on whether or not that was right. It was not centred on how we can enact what has been decided, and it was not on looking at any of the deeper issues which resulted in that vote. Instead, a political class and a chattering class and a media class who, of their own volition, seemingly, sort of decided or persuaded themselves on the basis of no evidence that people who voted to leave, of whom they knew not one person, had decided that it was a bad thing to do. They persuaded themselves that people had changed their minds and that it was all very bad. But in fact, they were just continuing to think that, and then they were sort of demand. I mean, actually, I think when we look back at what the last 3 years, when we've had a bit more time to reflect, and when history looks back, they will see these people who who got themselves into ever more extraordinary positions trying to justify something which at its root was basically, I don't like this decision, so I'm going to stop it. I mean, the idea of a people's vote, I mean, cut it which way you want. And frankly, I kind of wish that we had a second referendum because Leave would have won. But, we had vote after vote after vote. And people, the 2000, when the results for the 2019 general election were coming in, who were, sort of shocked by this. My first reaction when I saw the exit poll, and I saw that the exit poll was right, was, people wanted to leave the European Union. How many times did that have to be said? And just because some Ramona QC journalist, whatever, in Hampstead has decided that it's hateful, doesn't mean that everyone else has decided that. And it's just complete blindness.
It was blindingly obvious, but for 3 years now, we've wasted the opportunities to capitalize on Brexit and what that means leaving the European Union. So I think there are some positives. We will not be part of the political institution. These annoying Verhofstadt characters will not be part of our political life. We will not be paying these ridiculous MEPs. All of this stuff will go, and that's a good thing. And Brexit will remove the excuse that was being given for policy inaction previously. So we were told constantly governments cannot do this or that, cannot change policy, procurement policy, apprenticeships policy, hiring policies because of our membership of the European Union. So that is now removed as an excuse. And as we've discussed, we now need to see activist measures to regenerate this country from the Conservatives. And I'm really looking forward to seeing those patriotic Conservative MPs putting country first and demanding that we get economic renewal in this country. And this HS2 nonsense is absurd. Of course we have to have HS2. Yes, it's gone over budget, and we need to have serious questions asked about why it's gone so far over budget, how many, and I would love as an accountant to have gone through that, and I'm not sure there have been enough people with a business background looking at the cost overruns for HS2, but in principle, yes, of course we are doing it, we have to do it, and it's a nonsense for Boris to pretend that it's not going to happen. And as Conservatives, we need to be delivering big infrastructure projects in this country, and that is what that has so many benefits for everyone. And frankly, there needs to be ways to mitigate the other impacts, and that can be done, and that will be done. And that is, and everyone else who is opposing this is antediluvian and completely unrealistic.
But I mean, you're the only person I've heard standing up for HS2, so it's not a case that everyone else is unrealistic. Well, I don't want to go on about HS2 again because we're talking about Brexit, and I want to talk about some of the benefits because, like you mentioned, and like I still see all the time, but what are we going to get from this? What is the pro of leaving the European Union? And we're talking about controlling our own borders, controlling immigration, not necessarily reducing immigration, but controlling it and deciding on the type of people that we allow in and the reasons that we allow them in, whether that's because we need more skilled workers or more highly skilled individuals or whatever, more teachers, whatever we're looking for. Sovereignty, electing officials and being able to vote them out of office if we don't believe in what they're doing. That's a key issue. Reinstating our sole seat on the WTO, for instance, being an individual nation again and not being part of this bloc. Being able to decide where we spend our own money and not having it dictated by the continent, by Brussels, and sending money over there and then choosing what to fund over here. And just having our politicians being more accountable again. And I think there's so many positive reasons, and if we can talk about these more rather than moaning about the things we don't like, we'll get more of these Ramonas on board.
Yeah, well,
I mean, for a long time. Sorry, Joel.
No, that's I agree with that. I mean, that's what this is about, removing the excuses for inaction. So we now need. There is now no excuse for having active policies now that can help in all sorts of areas. Job hiring, creating jobs, and rejuvenating the economy, and that's very positive.
Yeah, for a long time, I think the question of whether a nation should be entitled to self-government was a pretty settled issue. I mean, certainly since the post-war sort of rapid decolonialization, I was somewhat surprised to see the North London liberal media elite class argue against the proposition that a country should be one which is self-governing. But equally, I think that that it is right, and it will allow the British electorate to have more control over the government and the policies that its governments enact. But fundamentally, I think this really is the fundamental point about Brexit and about the sort of big debate that we have had, is that our membership of the European Union was not an issue which excited a great many people before the referendum was called. Now, I may have had discussions with people, and I may have said, I think we should leave on balance. Someone should say, I think we should stay on balance. But that was sort of it. And actually, what Brexit has done has showed that there are different dividing lines politically. But I honestly believe this, and I'm not just saying this. I suspect in 50 years' time, people are going to look back and be very befuddled by the passion and excitement that people whip themselves up into on both sides about what was fundamentally Britain's membership of a trading organisation.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned that it's the elites that are against this self-governing. I'm sure Amir wants to jump in here because he was saying earlier that he doesn't like our government, doesn't trust them, so I think he would prefer for the EU to be ruling over us than our own people.
I mean, it's hard because it's like better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And, it's always dangerous taking a leap because you don't know where you're going to land. Sometimes you're going to land in the bad place. Sometimes you're going to land in the good place. I hope that we land in a good place. And like you guys have been suggesting, we should be optimistic about Brexit. I have hesitations about the Lib Dem policy about rejoining. This is a real concern of mine.
Hesitations.
Yeah.
That's a classic lawyer's phrase, isn't it?
It's a genuine concern that I have because there are talks of people talking about maybe we should rejoin, maybe that should be our flagship policy.
Go for it.
I think it's a big mistake, and I'll just say it out now. I think it's a big mistake that the Liberal Democrats should adopt that kind of policy. We need Liberal Democrats. The only way for the Liberal Democrats to become contenders for government in the future is to own Brexit. I'll say it out now. And the way to own Brexit is to show the country that the Lib Dems can run a government better than the Conservatives and better than the Labour Party. This is the only way that the Lib Dems are going to be able to get into government in the future. Now, I would suggest that they need to come up with a 20, 30-year plan that if in 20 or 30 years' time it all goes wrong, then we will put rejoining the EU back to the people. And I think that's fair because I think that's what David Cameron promised. He said this is a once-in-a-generation referendum. So I don't think it's wrong to have that on the horizon if all goes wrong. People might change their opinions in 10, 15 years' time. They might not like the way the country is going. They might, the EU might sort itself out and start to reform in a way which makes it more attractive for the UK to
if it's still around in 20 years, mate. It might be gone by
then. That's true. I mean, that's true. And actually, the EU remaining benefits us. I think it's the worst case scenario for us would be for the EU to collapse.
No,
actually,
not at all. But I've been reflecting on what Hamish was saying. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it more about this the way people have been so entrenched in a trading bloc. Like it's become a core belief of theirs, and it's been enlightening to me because there's a lot of people in our country that don't identify as British. They prefer to identify as an EU citizen. And the EU's, but yeah, exactly. But this is something that's come out of all this, and obviously the EU isn't a nation yet, so you're not an EU citizen. But where has that come from, and why, and how do we fix that?
Well, I mean, there's absolutely no chance you would ever see anybody before the referendum in this country dressing up in a beret with the EU flag on it. Yeah, I mean, painting their face in the EU flag and all that sort of thing. And it's just an expression of political discontent with a political decision that was taken. In the same way that people who talk about like how we absolutely must leave the fascist EU, we're not saying that before in most cases. what Amir says about Lib Dems and their position is completely right. We started this podcast during the campaign for the 2019 general election, and we were very critical, I think all of us, about the Lib Dems sort of revoke Article 50 position. And I think we commented that it was, a sort of 15 to 20 seat strategy, a core seat strategy, and actually they should be looking to be making much more gains than that. A rejoin the EU position, that is a 5 to 6 or whatever seat strategy. That means you are looking at holding the very irreducible core of Lib Dem support. It goes no further than that. I mean, you've got to look at even some of the really wacky Twitter people. I mean, it's only the sort of the Adonises and the AC Graylings who are still banging the drum. The serious, the dispossessed and the never possessed of Brexit derangement syndrome are still banging the drum. Everyone else, quit. Know when you've been beaten. So the Lib Dems need to absolutely, as Amir says, abandon this. In 30 years' time, whatever. I would have no objection to a further referendum, but it's done. It's absolutely done. What we need to do now, what the opposition parties need to do, is to start providing an actual political opposition to this government. Mm-hmm. This government has got itself in a position of hegemony because it was the only one that was offering a sensible Brexit position at the general election. Again, we will look back on the 2019 general election and look at the Liberal Democrats, look at the Labour Party and the Green Party and the SNP and think, what the fuck were they? I mean, why is anyone surprised that a party, the Labour Party, that promised to extend the already painfully long Brexit withdrawal process by another 6 to 12 months, did so badly? Why was anyone surprised by that? Why was anyone surprised that the Liberal Democrats, who basically turned around and said to 52%, more than 52% of the electorate, because there was a higher turnout in the referendum, said to 17.4 million voters, bollocks to you, and we're surprised that they only, that they did so badly. It's just, there's a complete sort of disconnect with some people. Politically in
well, they obviously got that wrong, and that's obvious. That's obvious. I mean, their whole strategy was wrong. They paid the ultimate price. They lost their leader.
No one is saying that. I mean, where is the self-reflection in the Liberal Democrats? Where is the self-reflection in the Labour Party?
It's happening, but it's not on the public kind of platform. It's happening internally
because you just ran a general election on that basis. If I were in the Liberal Democrats, if I were in the Labour Party, I would want someone to stand up and say, "We got this totally wrong. We got to hear that. We need a Neil Kinnock, message." Labour needs a Neil Kinnock for a whole suite of reasons, but the Liberal Democrats need it on Brexit. You need someone to stand up and tell the weirdy, beardy, sandal, hemp-wearing, people that make up the Liberal Democrats.
I mean, it's going to happen, but just give them a bit of time. Give them some time. I mean, they're passionate about their...
To be fair, you've got 5 years, so it's fine.
Yeah, you see, Calvin's right. We have a little bit of time. We don't have to rush into anything right now. But going forward, the Liberal Democrats need to come up with a 20-year plan of why the Liberal Democrats will be better, the best party for government. And I think they could sell that narrative. They can sell that not 2 weeks, 2 months before a general election, not really knowing what they're doing, but it should be a long-term plan so that people can slowly buy into a different government other than the Conservatives. The Conservatives are getting it wrong already. They've made mistakes already. Crime is through the roof, and we keep on hearing about lowest unemployment figures. What's more important, people dying on the streets?
It's not one or the other. Come on, that's nonsense. But you are right in that the Lib Dems
crowded field, Amir. That might be the crowded field. That might be the most extraordinarily stupid thing.
Look,
But you're
we've
right
got-
that the Lib Dems could fill the void. Like Labour is non-existent right now. They could step in and become that the opposition party if they get
could.
back together.
the
They really could.
Central
They really could.
pro-business party is badly needed. You know, Boris deserves his huge majority, and it's fantastic. He's got that, but he needs to deliver on it. He's got a load of people
Yes.
that need to deliver now, and there is no opposition. That's true. So it's up to the voters to hold politicians to account and make sure that they deliver on what they've said they're going to deliver on.
But Hamish, how can you say that this Conservative Party is doing great? You've got the highest NHS waiting times. You've got crime through the roof.
I don't think that's what Hamish was saying, but we're talking about Brexit, so let's leave
Well,
that
he
one
doesn't
there.
say many things, but he implies.
We've wondered.
Let's wrap that one up.
Anyway, we're all looking forward. So we're all going to be there. So we're going to
It's
be there.
Friday.
Is
Where are we
everyone
gonna be?
going out on Friday?
Yeah, we're going. I mean, I thought we were all
Good.
going.
Nice.
Where are we going? I don't even know.
We're not meeting somewhere. We should go.
We should take a clip or a photo for the podcast then.
Yeah.
I have professional business to attend on Friday.
Oh shit!
Indeed, we'll be there, but afterwards. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and we will see you on the next one.
Good night.
See ya.
I'm just trying to stay back from Twitter because it's just toxic. But this guy was tweeting nonsense about the Orthodox Conservatives, so I just blocked him for a bit. And then he's tweeted this. He's triggered. He's
Oh,
upset.
this is a real trigger. Pricks like this think they can appear in our party and attempt to bully hard-working members out of it. Did you bully him?
First of all, how have I bullied you? Secondly, when did I appear in the party? Thirdly, is it your party that I appeared in? I'm not even a member of the party, for God's sake.
So Calvin, apparently you don't like it when you're challenged, or when people stand up to your behaviour. Well, you fucking arsehole.
I know. This guy doesn't
Why
like
are
it.
you challenging this guy, Calvin? You idiot.
Carry on.
Okay, that's
My message to members is stand up to these people because in reality they are life's losers.
Who said that?
He's got a point.
So I'm a prick and a loser.
Apparently you're a prick and a
That's
loser.
not,
dude.
that is unarguable.
He's the 2019 candidate for your neck of the woods, Joel.
Who doesn't like me for being a conservative in the Conservatives?
Oh, what? A Northern Ireland, Amandeep style, big Sing Bogle style character.
Hashtag together, let's make a difference.
He'll go far.
Anyway, that is Friends of the Show.
Oh, we're done already.
I do friends of the show.